And welcome to the Blackhouse, Wellington Access Radio, 106.1 FM. You are in the studio today with Tete, Eddie, and Tammy.
Yeah.
And we have like a full ensemble kind of like, this is like the most packed I think the studio has ever been. We have what, like, well, there was like 9 of us?
Yeah.
Woo.
Let's go.
We had like, I feel like we need to talk to Access Radio about getting like a kind of actual AC unit put in.
For
Like,
real.
one of those little remotes, you can like just bring their good temperature down.
Yeah.
But no, so if you've been in Wellington the last couple of weeks, there's been the kind of Kiamo Contemporary Arts Festival kind of going on, and it's been really cool. I think I've seen there's been some really amazing kind of performances and kind of shows and stuff on. And today we have an amazing team who kind of put together one of those kind of shows, the Gates to Memory show. So we have Stela, Dara, Ella Williams, Janelle Fontaine, and Kevin Licorice. How are you guys going? Like,
yeah.
I was gonna say
Real
like,
cool, not gonna lie.
So is that Wellington winter?
Oh man.
But I was going to turn it over to you guys. Like, do you want to introduce yourselves to the sort of thing? Like, saying we'd like, you know, we're going to get into your show, but I'm kind of keen to hear from you guys, like how you can introduce yourselves to this.
Or to Stella.
Okay. Yeah, kia ora everyone. My name's Stella. I'm a dancer from Brazil originally, and then in that from Portugal, Italy, Africa descendants and Indigenous as well. But yeah, I'm a dancer in Wellington, and that's what I do.
Ella be like,
Hello. I'm Ella. I'm also a dancer. Yeah, I also freelance in Wellington. I'm based here, was born in Canada. I am femme from Trini, Africa descent, and then also femme from London, Ireland, Scottish descent. Yeah.
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 And I'm Janelle. I am very, very privileged, honored to be a part of this team at all with Stella and Ella. They are two of the best humans I have ever met. I have ever known, ever met. And I hate when I say it, but it's so true. I'm a part of the sound design team.
Yes, and I'm Kevin. And yeah, I'm the other half of the sound design team. And we've worked on this project consistently for over a month. And it's been really a pleasure.
I was gonna say it's really funny. It's like suddenly been like the number of Caribbean people in Wellington has just doubled for me. Like I feel at this point, I feel like there's like me, Kai, and then there's a couple others that I see, and then it's just like, oh, and now there's like more.
Fast.
Yeah, awesome.
But yeah, so the show Gates to Memory, like I guess like, do you guys want to give us a bit of a rundown on just what the show was, sort of things, and like.
Yeah.
I feel like Stella, you're like the de facto, like this. You're the go-to.
Well, between me and Ella, I'm the talkative one. Between Janelle and Kevin, Janelle talks. So if it's dance, I'll talk. Otherwise, Janelle will talk music. And Kevin too. Oh, I'm yapping now. Okay. Gaze to Memory, the show. It started because Kiamo, Hone, the director from Kiamo, asked me to put on the show. He was like, "Yo, I like your style. Do you want to do anything?" I'm like, yeah, I don't know what, but yeah. And then I remembered I wanted to work with Ella for a while because in the dance community, I think we have similar whakapapas through the, like, we're both touch base to the Atlantic Ocean compared to most people here. They touch base to the Pacific Ocean. And also we just get along really well and worked together before. And then we tried to brainstorm some ideas of a show. And originally it was going to be about the sugar triangle and touching base on sugarcane, specifically talking about cachaça, rum, and the slave trade that came with that. But then that was too deep to do in like 3 weeks. So we're like, okay, gotta simplify it. And Ella had this idea for a solo she wanted to do. And from that idea, we kept developing what Gates Memory was originally. And that all changed throughout the process, which we can talk about more later on. But yeah, the original idea was to talk about carrying memories or finding memories from our ancestors through movement and memories that we haven't been necessarily told verbally.
Yeah, or like just the idea of having like all your ancestors' memory, like past, present, future within your bones.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like how you carry that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those really like, I don't know, like I have the like, I mean, like massive pleasure to go watch the kind of show sort of thing. Because then, and I was going to put it, because I know Titi and Tammy, you've also seen it sort of things like, it was just one of those ones of like, I know for me just watching it, and it was cool because I think like just picking up on the different threads, and I think it's always fun when you go see something like this and you're trying to piece together, it's like, yeah, what exactly was that about, sort of thing.
We don't know
And I
anything.
want to throw it over to Titi and Tammy to be like, hey, what were your kind of reactions to the show, sort of thing?
Oh man. First off, again, thank y'all for being here. It's always a pleasure to speak with other artists, but people who also draw upon their whakapapa, especially in a place where they're making a home away from home to do so. So the first thing that came to mind is, and I really wanted to ask y'all, is like, how important is memory to you in being in a place like this, particularly when you're, as you mentioned, like representing and carrying your ancestors with you in a place where many have touched base before, but everyone around you may not have been aware of it?
Who wants to go?
You need to have like a little dice, be like, okay, cool.
I'll go because I've been away from Brazil since I was 10, and also because I moved to Germany first and then came here, and just being away from home and having to rebuild a new home every single time. This has its challenges, and also not spending time with the elderly to tell you the stories, and the elderly also being ashamed of their own stories or not being open to talk about it. That's hard on itself. Before finding Ella, before finding these guys as well, like I feel like it feels stronger and stronger now, the connection with people that are not just from Pacific descent. But yeah, I think it is hard to find your memories if you are physically away from your land, because I think a lot comes from literally just touching a soil and being like, this feels, I don't know what this feeling is, but being in this land feels different. I don't know if that answers it, but that's me.
I could try to give it a take. Kevin and I have only been here for over a year, just over a year. So we lived in Trinidad for most of our lives, in the Caribbean, for context, and we've traveled a fair amount, but this is the first time we've actually made a move somewhere else. The thing that he and I share, and I guess a lot of us with any kind of Caribbean blood share, is that your ancestry tends to be split all over the world. So that Trinidad is where we all ended up, but it's not where our ancestries began. So that sometimes I feel like, and I would tell him this a lot this year, that I am Pangean in nature, because I just have I have maybe 14 different countries and he has way more, just pulling on the edges of the world, trying to bring things together. And I kind of hope that maybe our existence signifies a unity that could come back to the globe in some way. So it's kind of nice being here too, because my son is also here and he's going to be 17 next month. Next month actually. Wow. and an adult next year, and he gets to experience just a beautiful new culture and also expand his mind even further. And I think that's something really special to share with Aotearoa. Like, it really is for us. Yeah.
I'm just processing. I was like, but it is interesting. I was talking to one of my mates earlier this week, and we're talking about that experience of, especially when you're coming from through, especially like the African diaspora, and obviously descending from the transatlantic trade in some sort of aspects. Like there's a grief that kind of goes alongside that experience of being of that separation sort of things and what we've lost sort of thing. But they were kind of framed it more as like there's kind of and I think to feel that was kind of bits of the show kind of almost gave me that sort of feeling of that kind of that forced separation and that sort of thing, because it felt that there was something really, you know, it is a grief that you have to process, but it is a kind of catharsis that as you kind of, it's part of that experience, and it is part of our experiences in a sense. I was going to say, Tammy, how about from your sort of things? What were your kind of?
Yeah, thanks for letting me jump in. So yeah, just while I'm here, just sorry to Canada from America. Just while we're here, yeah, you know, I kind of came here through Atlanta and not Pacific as well. So yeah, I really resonated with that. But I guess I instantly kind of thought, even though it's gateways to memories, which has been your influence for this show, how has being in Aotearoa had any kind of fingerprint on that, or any kind of creative influence on those memories? You know, I have all of my childhood memories are in the States, but most of my adult memories are here in Aotearoa. So those are all mash up for me. So yeah, how has being here kind of influenced your creative process and your memories?
I think maybe I'm a bit similar. Like I grew up in Canada until I was 8, and then I was here since then. So like I have a lot of like my own personal memories are either here or in Canada.
Yeah,
like
that's an interesting
creative.
thing, because I was here since 12. And so they kind of say that you retain accent and most of your core memories, or the things that sculpt you from the age of 12 onwards. So I was kind of at that transition. So with you being that little bit younger, is it harder to tap into some of those memories?
I'm not sure. I feel like I just have different like different feet to stand on.
Right.
Is all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like for certain things, I feel like for certain things I'll think of like culture in Canada or like the people there, and that will like bring different like movement or like feeling up. And then certain things, it's like memories here. But also like all my creative practice has been here. So that's like completely shaped me. Like all the people we work with, and we like in terms of art, in terms of dance, like everything is here. So all of that obviously shapes us. But then it's also like how that relates to not our own memory, but like the memory, collective memory is like really maybe something we're trying to figure out, I think. Yeah, because it's like you grow like a strong, kind of like strong memory, strong community, the places you grew up. But then you also like have this thing of always having kind of what you guys were saying, like having this constant other memory or feeling that you don't have. So it's like trying to figure out how they talk to each other. If that makes any sense?
Yeah.
Cool.
I thought I wanted also to clarify that was our first instinct of the show, is to get those memories. But then what happened throughout the process, some of those memories showed up in characters that Ella's character she had met before, but that character changed a lot after we had a workshop with Dione from, Black BCA, Black Creators Aotearoa. Thank you, Dione. And I met my character through that workshop as well. And I would say those characters came from the work that we're trying to do of accessing memories that are not ours through movement. But the show itself was very much shaped by the characters rather than us as individuals, I would say, if you guys agree. So the end result of what you guys saw, which is not the end result of the show, that was our first development, that was very much shaped by those characters that came through that practice, but the memories that were shown there, it was the meeting in that showing. Yeah. But same as Ella, I think our creative practice in Aotearoa has been yeah, it has only been in Aotearoa. I mean, for me, I've gone back to Brazil every year since I left, except during COVID. So I have a very strong connection to our culture there, our artistry there as well. And you can probably see that in the show as well with the rhythms and stuff. But in terms of dance, I'm very much influenced by mainly the Pacifica people here. Yeah, and being adopted into groups of Pacifica people, thanks to Lemoana to be. Yeah, so I think the influence of the collective memory that Ella's talking about as an artist in Aotearoa from the diaspora of not just Afro-descendant or Latino descendant, anything, just the diaspora of immigrants into Aotearoa has really shaped us in our artistry and the way we approach making. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Throwing it back.
I think that kind of brings me on to kind of next point. I guess that kind of point about like what was the kind of process of putting the show together, sort of things. Like obviously you mentioned these workshops now. Like, what was the kind of flow? Like you kind of spoken a bit about how it kind of starts, and obviously like that kind of initially wanting to base it around the trends, like the triangle trade and the sugar trade, sort of thing. What has that evolution of that show been like? What was the kind of process of putting it all together?
So what had happened was no, this is all you.
Me and Ella staring at each other.
They are telepathic, by the way. Just so you
Oh,
know.
yeah.
They really are.
Oh, I saw it in the show. I saw it in the show. Yeah, sure.
We communicate
I personally don't have a very I've never created before. So for me, making the show was way more in just exploring vibes. For me, making the show was just kind of following whatever jumped out, or kind of diving into creating characters and a world rather than creating a show. And then Stela, she has made before, very cool work. It was really good having both of us, because if it was just me, I think it really would have maybe not been made, because Stela sees way more overall storyline, if things make sense. It's maybe more. Oh, we're both intention based, but Stella's more has to make sense for the audience as well. And I'm just this feels right.
I think that's an interesting sort of idea, especially in talking about the kind of core idea of the show being memory sort of thing, and having something where it's someone who approaches it from the point of almost instinctively, that kind of feels like the way you describe it makes it sound like this is an instinctive thing, which is almost like the core, like you said, it's like the depth of our memory and experience sort of thing. So I think that's a really interesting way to kind of approach it. And then obviously then be like, okay, here's someone who's like, okay, still we can structure this in a bit more.
Yeah, I think I agree with Ella. Ella has this crazy ability. If you've seen her dance, she doesn't look human. When she moves, there's something around her that just shelters her and makes her huge. If you meet Ella as a person on the street, you're like, oh, she's so cute and shy. But you see her dance and she grows on size. She takes up a whole, however many audience members are there, everyone's going to feel what she's doing.
Yeah, big stage presence.
Yeah.
And so
Absolutely.
what was that like performing where you were? One of the first things that struck me, when we walked in, was how intimate the setting was, from the stage with the audience.
Yeah,
You were
love
right
that.
there. I could have just touched you at any. So how's that like performing, in such an intimate setting?
I think me and Ella both really appreciate the intimacy with the audience in every show. Everything that I think we create and want to be part of, we do really appreciate the audience being there with us. And that was a thing that was different, the show, because usually the shows we make or are part of, we really acknowledge the audience. If you watch Show de Cafe, which is my last show that I made, we are with the audience from the beginning, from the get-go. Also other shows that we've done with Java Dance Company, who is the company that we started dancing with together. yeah, it's very much audience based. So that was very I would say I was insecure about that, of being like, does the audience feel ignored? Like, it's an intimate space, which made us feel even more secure because the space was small. But still, we're like, oh, do we need to give them more? So that was new for us in the making as well.
Yeah, it was amazing. And the stage looked great too. Like it had such a real moody feel to it. Yeah, so, and you could see quite a lot of emotion on the stage. So I don't know, maybe you could tell us about some of those emotions. Like, yeah.
Now you're in the right zone.
Emotions.
Because that was one part that Leah and I had debriefed quite a lot afterwards. Like we were talking about what is it that you were actually trying to make us feel, and whether or not, So talk to us about that.
Ella's looking at me. I'll go. I think because throughout the development of the show, it was only in the last season that we figured out that structure of, because we needed to show something. It was scheduled, people were getting tickets. We're like, okay, we need a structure. And it was the characters themselves that made that structure, picked the music in the order they were. And when we say characters, it's not our choice as people. It's like the characters that we're channeling that chose that order of the show. And I think what the characters were feeling throughout the whole show felt like distrust and longing, and figuring out how to give what the other person actually needs, but not knowing how to ask what they need, or also not knowing how to ask for what you need. And that made the characters really do that push and pull motion throughout the whole show.
Right.
And I think as an audience, we didn't actually think heaps about the audience at that point. I would be completely honest, which felt, again, like the insecurity of like, do they feel ignored? But the responses I did get from people was very much just trying to figure out relationships with the people near you, also relationships with yourself.
Right.
Yeah,
no, we definitely got that when we were watching, and there was something almost, in that push-pull, we kind of got the conflict of that, but then it kind of plateaued and reached this real almost resolve moment. So just really sort of peaceful and like kind of gone through some growth. So I mean, tell me, am I interpreting that right, or where are we at with the storyline?
So, as a biased audience member,
Yes.
So I felt like this particular stage of the development, it gave me as a person. So like I would try to step out of our role and step into what it is to take this in, when it became like the final stage of what it was. And I realized for me that it was perhaps provoking things that needed to come up for me to process. So, and I think it's really subject to interpretation, right? But for me, it provoked past female friendships. And it provoked the conflict of distrust that women come at each other with immediately, almost. And there's always this underlying suspicion, an underlying thing of, can I trust you? Can I not? Can I trust you? Can I not? That I think is so destructive for women in general. And to see them battle it out, where there was also this moment of coming down to the end. Well, I mean, I guess I can put teeny spoilers in there, where it's like Stella's character was giving so much of herself to Ella's character that it was causing her to die.
Right.
And it was such a codependency that was developing, and it was so painful to watch that she could not live in that environment anymore without complete self-sacrifice of who she came here to be. And Ella's character recognized that and ushered her away. And I felt like that was the healthy resolution, because they could try to intersect, but they were not good for each other.
Right.
And they could have beautiful moments of connection, but they were from different worlds, and those worlds didn't seem to be able to coexist with both of them being themselves. And that's what it took for me. It took for me that if you cannot completely, wholly just encapsulate who you came to be as a person with another, then perhaps it's not the healthiest connection. So that's a really biased view, but that's what it gave me, and it brought up all those emotions. And I just felt like this is guiding my friendships with women moving forward, because it feels like I have gotten past that, because now I just have this wonderful woman in my life. And it's like, it was this resolution of, yes, I've walked away from that. And now I get to just have beautiful connections that allow me to be who I came here to be. Did you get any of that?
Yeah, so yeah,
Sorry.
I really love that.
Mm.
Yeah, look, I really loved it a lot. What I'm feeling really probably most inspired about now, even post the show, is how different people can take their own memories and create some interpretation from that.
Leads to
So,
memory.
yeah, it really was. So one thing, again, Leah and I were bouncing about afterwards, because we sort of almost got this symbiotic thing between you two on stage, Ella and Stela, and then almost like this two peas in a pod, but then this conflict with each other. And we liken that to how our diaspora is so diverse, and how on that spectrum, you know, we're all one, we're all in one band, but we can be really conflicted with each other at times too.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was, I really love how this show has opened up. So, yeah, it was just, that's cool to hear. So how much of this are you hoping is people get what you've scripted or what you intend versus open to interpretation?
Personally, for me, I love when things are open for interpretation,
Amazing.
especially in dance, because dance is like everything is within your body and like really felt, and like your body and dancing is quite a sacred thing. So sometimes I don't like to like push or enforce like ideas too strongly, just because like if I watch dance, my body's gonna react to that before like my brain does, and if they're telling me how I should feel, then it can feel like really inauthentic or like
Dissonance.
yeah. I think I prefer to keep things open, because then it lets yourself like do all the things. Yeah.
I'll jump into that in terms of dance. I agree with Ella as well. That the thing that for me makes a dance show relatable is when the people on stage know what they're doing for themselves, and that makes you relate to them. But as soon as you come at the audience with like a very clear, this is what it is, you kind of almost get sheltered as an audience member. You're like, oh, don't tell me how to feel, like, or at least that's me watching. I'm like, don't. Like, I can figure it out for myself. Feelings wise, I think narrative wise, I'm a fan of story. I'm a fan of narrative personally, because a lot of dancers don't like spoon feeding the audience is what they call it, but I like creating a world where everyone doesn't have to like do a gymnast things with their brains to like figure out what it was that they just watched. So I think going forward, for me personally, I would love to have like something where everyone can relax and watch and not have to like work night and day of like figuring out what that was supposed to mean. But that comes with just being comfortable with our intentions on stage, because then someone will relate to us. If we know what we are doing, then I guess people around us will know too.
There was a really good visual relation for me as well too, because quite often when down here, you know, when I'm going to see performing arts, it's usually that Pacifica flavor. And I just, I mean, I didn't get that, which is exactly what I was hoping to my memory to open up. So that was really cool for me as well, as that I found it like completely uniquely what you had to offer. So that was a great part of the show.
Thank you.
I think it's interesting, that idea you're talking about, like that kind of insecurity about engaging with an audience sort of thing, because it's also the sort of thing, because I almost feel like, obviously, if you're engaging with an audience, that's one form of connection, but I feel like what we kind of got was a very different, or I don't want to say deeper, but a different type of connection, in the sense that like it felt more because that almost like it was like drawing you in more to this idea of like there's not like a need where it's direct interplay with an audience sort of thing. But it's like now in my head, I'm trying to like, I'm drawn in more, and then I'm trying to craft this kind of, I'm like, for me, it felt like mythic almost. Like I was crafting this mythology inside my head about what this kind of, like what's happening and how this kind of works. And I think a kind of big part of that was obviously like then the sound, obviously the movement aspect, but then the sound and lighting sort of things. And I was going to fling it over to you guys, like how did you guys envision like how did that kind of synthesis of like obviously the movement, but obviously then how the interplay of the sound and light and that sort of thing kind of come together?
All right.
What's
Well,
that
well.
process? What
Well.
happened was,
So when this process started, we
Big up
weren't
DVD. Yeah.
we weren't 100% sure where we would land in terms of the sound, obviously, as with everything with the project, because it was very exploratory. But I think that once we were able to kind of nail down the moods, that informed a lot in terms of what the end product sounded like. This was very new for us in that we had never done sound specifically for a dance performance. Now, we have a background in live entertainment. Back in the Caribbean, I did radio for a fair period of time. I did DJ and that kind of thing, so that I know what it is in terms of engaging with a crowd when it comes to playing music. But this was very different because the movements weren't specifically dance in the sense of going to a party and dancing.
Right.
So that the rhythms had a lot more fluidity to it, which was very freeing in terms of creativity, because it gave you the room to be able to go in any direction within the parameters of the mood. So it was about learning a new language to communicate with each other firstly, so we could kind of get to that place of understanding that this is what we wanted to feel like, as opposed to what it sounds like, if that makes sense. And then we would have done some draft pieces, sent to them. They would have literally taken the pieces and danced to them in their studio, and then feedback on how it felt. And then we use that information to kind of inform where the next stage would go. The point that Stela was making about not knowing the order of the show until the late part, that was, I think that when that happened is where the magic really went to another level for us, because it was like there was no way that we would have logically deduced that order. And it worked so perfectly for what the show ended up becoming that kind of took the experience to another level for us.
So one of the cool things with Stela and Ella is that they had two modes of communication with us. The initial one would have been elemental and like things like
Textures
clay and bone and leaves, dark, deep forests and water and trickles. And so like they could identify almost visually, they could look around maybe through their characters' eyes in a sense, or get a sense as to the environments their characters were in enough to give us that. And then, well, my role was to take that and translate it to Kevin and be like, well, I think that sounds like this, and it sounds probably more like that, and or to try to craft like maybe like my little sound would be like things like how do you make a whisper sound like a shaker, and like just just kind of work through, and he'd sit and work with it and get it to the place where it can do things. And so that was one mode. The other mode is purely physical. So they would talk to us and say, it should be like, and for those who can't see, my hands are just moving. And it's like you initially you're like, what does that mean? But then you get to a place where you understand that, like this refers to this type of sound, or this refers to this type of thing. And you just have to learn, because that translation between a dancer's world and then there's their character's world. So there's Ella and Stela in their communication. There's the characters and what the characters want for the story. And then there's us just trying to make sure that we can have some integrity for both of them. And then the amazing thing, and I'm throwing the spotlight on Ella here, is that she has such an incredible production ear that she would just hear the littlest thing and be like, oh, this place with that thing in particular. And it's like, how does someone do that? It was just really so that it was such a like we would have some all day sessions home by us, a couple of them and just sit with the music and just work through things, and then they could move and then they could see and we could try, and then guys, anything in Portuguese that was on that sound was Stela singing.
I thought so.
And if you heard something eerie in the background, that was Ella.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
The
amazing.
shy Ella
Oh,
who was embodying amazing sounds, and we got to incorporate them, who they were, their characters and everything into the bed of the sound.
I think that was I think that part that you're highlighting in terms of the synergy that happened when we were actually working together in the same space.
Yeah.
I think that was probably the most enjoyable part of the process. Notwithstanding, I mean, making music is what it is, but it's always I believe that because ideas could go in multiple different directions, having the co-creative experience of the parties involved to kind of steer the ship is always the most enjoyable part of the journey for me. And it takes away your subjective version of what you think it should be and kind of opens it up to, all right, I could give this feedback, get feedback, and then you use that to inform what we do next. And that's always the best part for me. And this particular experience was like that on another level.
Amazing.
So one specific part of the show that I found quite intriguing, and I still don't really know exactly, maybe you can shed some light on it for me, it was the light. So, you know, and the movement of that and how, so can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Gladly. So the light was designed by Elicas and operated by Amanda. Elicas is Chilean and Kiwi, and we've wanted to work with her for I don't know how long because they are amazing. Like as you've seen, sorry, Elicas, but I'm gonna say it. They did their lighting the day before the show. They've never seen the show before.
Oh,
And they
wow.
just came in, they're like, what's the mood for this scene? And we're like, that's the mood. They're like, yeah, got it. Like, and they just like they had driplets. That's their driplets. What you guys saw is their drops of ideas.
Amazing.
Because
That's insane.
yeah, that's their drops.
Yeah.
They had 3 concepts that they wanted to have in this development, and they put it in the show, which was the projection, the lights hanging, and the stick. Evolved from that, and just imagine if that's their jobs, imagine their whole work. Crazy. But yeah, Elicas, we've wanted to work with them for as long as we could imagine, but they live in Melbourne, and they were only here for another show, so they didn't even get to watch the full show. They watched one run.
Right.
And we were communicating with them just over calls and just about feelings. I think we generally communicate feelings rather than feelings, textures rather than like the actual movement. And these guys, the sound designers, had such a hard time with us. I think they wouldn't say it. They wouldn't say it, but like we would just give them like the bare minimum, and they would like have to work with it. But yeah, lighting was all Elicas.
Yeah, it looked incredible.
Also, just like in terms of like lighting and sound, I think it like all work together because I think everyone creates in a way like creates to make worlds rather than creates to make like certain scenes or pictures. So since everyone was kind of on the same page in that sense, it was everything. It just made it more like had more depth to it for me at least. And also meant like because Elicas's lighting, even though she only had like that one day, it made like a huge difference to the show. Like huge difference. Like it felt completely different doing the run before that. And then into this, it was just like the worlds kind of actually formed, which was really cool. So
if you guys watched Dark at Camo, whoever watched it, Elicas did the lighting for that. Not sure if you guys here watched it, but that was insane. They've been working on that for 2 years. Thanks, Elicas.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was also. I'm a huge fan of how people play with lights and shadows in particular. And to talk about what you were mentioning, just about how you came up with the sounds, because you really felt it. But what I found to be interesting was it felt like I was hearing the light and seeing the sounds. In terms of how your characters were portrayed, like Ellie, your character felt so towering in a lot of ways, and how she connected with your character also, and the conflict that it arose in me. So I'm Ghanaian by background, but I've never gone home. Going home for the first time at the end of this year. And I'm 34 now, and I was raised in a very Pan-Africanist household. So there was always this conflict and this attempted synergy between the memories of my parents and my forefathers and ancestors and my own memories, of which my parents can't relate to at all because they didn't grow up in the place that I did, and trying to make sense of, okay, what is true and what is not, what is true to me and what is true to them, because I'm a part of this story and this lineage as well, and just trying to glue that kind of synergy together, especially when the outside world may not make sense of it in the same way that you do internally, because they hear the sound, they don't see it, they don't see the story behind it. So they hear the sound of your voice and attribute it what that means and the story behind it. So my accent's very American to some. They also don't hear the 10 years in Europe that I spent growing up there and things like that. So yeah, it arose a lot, and I was also really interested and wanted to ask you both about the kind of push-pull between your characters, because how I envision when things separate, whether it be a piece of paper or otherwise, it feels aggressive. There's like a rip almost. It didn't feel aggressive in the ways that your characters were connecting and being pulled apart. It was soft in some ways, but it did feel heavy in others. So yeah, I just wanted to ask you about that and your experiences of what that was like for you and how you came up with that.
For me, I think, yeah, it definitely didn't feel super aggressive, I think, because our characters constantly were trying to like nurture each other. Yeah, but then also like within nurturing or like figuring out like who we were, like, because our characters are just meeting. So yeah, you're like figuring out who this other person is, like their whole background, their whole like history, like how their hearts feel, like all of the things is like this back and forth. I don't think necessarily that the pulling apart is always like the bad thing. Like it feels like sometimes during that show, that pulling apart was like to take care of the other person, or sometimes the pulling apart is just that there is no other choice, but like because your intention is still there, it's not aggressive. It's just that you have to be taken away. Yeah, I think it. How am I saying? For me, it like really goes into those feelings. Yeah, this is just personal for me, but because like so often, the way I was raised, aggression, or like, no, not aggression, anger can be like quite a strong form of love within like Black community. So for me, like that kind of that can almost be aggressive, but doing these kind of aggressive moves or like kind of really intentional things that could cause harm, but because it's like with so much care and love, it's like kind of ends up being a nice thing. If that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's
said.
cool. That makes a lot of sense with how that aggression was still, that conflict was still, there was a softness to it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I really love that interpretation of how that's a feature prominent within Black communities. I instantly thought of my
Absolutely.
grandmother,
Mm.
you know, the
Mm.
strong
Yeah.
woman. And so cool.
It's reminds me like my grandmother's funeral, and obviously like all the stuff that goes into a Caribbean funeral and all the kind of the emotion and tension that kind of goes into that. But it's kind of is just like I remember, and it's just like this is just expression. But how was the experience of like obviously there were kind of 3 sessions like showings of the first show? Like what was the experience? Did it kind of feel like something that shifted as from show to show, like in terms of obviously you had different audiences or different like how was that experience of kind of performing it multiple times, and like was there a kind of variation in that kind of feeling that goes into that kind of multiple showings?
I just want to say big them up because they had 3 sold out shows.
Three
Full sold out
sold
season.
Nice.
I'll jump on because I do feel quite strongly about that experience. It was very different to every other show I've done. That's like we've done most of our work that we do is usually more than 1 show. It's usually like the average numbers of 4 shows in each performance period. But this time, every single show felt so different. The structures were there in each show. The structures were the same. The lighting was the same. The music was the same. But because it's mostly improvised within the structure and the characters drive it hugely, it really was like the characters were generally just meeting each other every single night again and again and again and again. And that was so buzzy. I've never felt this way when I finished the show and like thanked the audience. I felt really emotionally drained because we were holding those characters to meet each other and meet each other and meet each other and go through that experience every single night. And it's like they never knew it was going to happen again. So I've actually genuinely never felt that emotionally tired after a show, which was quite buzzy to experience. But yeah, that was my different experiences in the 3 shows, the emotional heaviness with that.
Yeah, kind of similar. I feel like because so much of the show is based around like reacting off each other, like even like the slightest difference in like facial expression could like change the whole trajectory of the show. Like even like the first look of when we meet, like depending on how Stela would look at me, it would change like all the decisions. Like even though we still kind of do the same thing, it's like with what intention you're doing the thing changes a lot. Yeah, which was really fun, but yeah, also felt quite heavy, because it's like you could just do the thing and like do it the same, but it wouldn't feel like you're honoring like the work or the characters. So yeah, I think we just wanted to like what Stela said, like actually meet each time.
I guess how was it kind of processing that kind of emotional fatigue kind of afterwards, sort of thing, like
Still processing. I think the most nurturing thing about this whole experience of making the show from the beginning, from being asked by the festival personally, us to being asked directly to make something, to then reuniting and making a plan, and then meeting these amazing guys, all our collaborators that really nurtured us. We thought we were gonna look after them. They looked after us throughout the whole thing. So the most nurturing thing about this whole show, even the shows itself and the fatigue alpha, is just knowing that we have built a new community and we have new people to call on, and that they can also rely on us. I think having that in my brain and in my body, just I would do it all over again anytime. And the fatigue of the show itself, it's just sleep. It's just we need to sleep, and it'll wear out after that. Yeah, but I'm really grateful for you guys, honestly. These guys feed us every time.
Very true. I love it.
Also reconnecting with you, Titi, after I was thinking about a costume designer because we couldn't find anyone because everyone's busy for the festival.
Mm.
And then we were getting a coffee, just like thinking really hard. So we're like, oh, we can't rehearse right now. We need a coffee. And then we bumped into you.
Yeah.
And he recommended a stylist that I've worked with before. We've worked with him together before, Ryan. And yeah, it was like perfect time to meet. And then also, yo, Theo can do the video. I'm like, that's right, Theo can do the video. So that kind of connection through the show has been amazing. And Dione, of course, as well, who got us all together.
Ooh, tell that story. Yeah, how we met.
Oh, with Dione?
Yeah. What had happened was,
You want to tell?
So Dione reached out to us. So Dione Joseph, Black Creators Aotearoa, we love you so much. Thank you. She's the reason why we connected. So that they would have met in Auckland for something else. And saw a video that Kevin and I had done for the Dimensions in Black stuff to talk about, sound design for that. And realized, I guess, that, we're Trini and made the connection because, Ella has Trini roots as well, and reached out to Dione to link us. And Dione just messaged, said, guys, I found some amazing Wellington community for you guys. These dancers are there and they're doing this amazing show and you guys need to link. And, Dione is always like connecting everybody everywhere. And we met them probably, I don't know, a little while after, probably even just before Stela would have gone back to Brazil and Peru. And immediately fell in love. Like I left the thing saying to Kevin, I was like, oh my God, I'm so happy. I want to work with them. It's just amazing. It was just seamless. From the beginning of that point of Dione reaching out, sending their contacts, reaching out, like scheduling something, meeting them, and just feeling like every bit of my body and my soul was just like, yes. Every moment of it was just, yes. These are people I want to work with. They're amazing. You can tell that their intentions are so pure. And they're coming at it wanting to bring something that is beautiful to the space, and they're doing it from the right place with the right heart. They're talented. They're open to learning. Like even when Dione came down, because she was also the dramaturge of the Gates to Memory, so she came down to do that workshop. And like if I were them, like I gave them a story of my how difficult it can be to change things when you're attached to things, right? From my creative practice and having to learn how to release that creative ego, they would just had no ego in the entire process. They were just like, we want to get to know our characters and we want to know what they want and we're open to this process. And I was like, wow. And it was just like, I don't know if I could have been so, open to just.
Even the way that they work with each other.
Yeah, like
it's,
they are
it really
seamless,
is
like creators who work together, you're like, maybe, if they have different visions, you'd see some kind of clash or whatever.
Yeah.
They're always
No,
like, what
it
do
was
you
never
think?
that.
And what do you
Yeah.
think? And let's bring it together. And it's
It
like,
was
I
never
have
that.
never worked with a creative team so seamless and
Amazing.
open and just lack of ego. That they're not ego driven, they're truly intention driven, intuition driven, and they keep that at the forefront of everything that they do. It was, thank you for giving us that experience. You guys are just amazing. Truly. Yeah.
So then maybe we can expect to see more between Stela and Ella. So can you give us any little insight, like what's coming up next for either of you? No spoiler alerts, but can you drop us a little hint on where we might see you next, or what's in the pipeline?
As the producer for the show, I will call a meeting with Ella in a few weeks' time. And I think we would love to keep developing. It doesn't mean the show needs to stay the same at all. It will change. And we do definitely want to keep working with each other. And I think there's no expiry date on that at all. This is, in my brain, if Ella agrees, this is just the beginning of us going 20 years, 40, sorry. Same with these guys, like meeting them is like, it already feels like lifetime connections. And I don't say that lightly. I would never say that lightly. If it's lifetime, it's lifetime. So I'm really excited to keep working with everyone.
We're excited to see what comes up next.
I do want to also ask, because all of the scenes, some of the scenes are just permanently ingrained in my memory. There was one in particular. Ella's 1 year character climbed on the back of Stela's character, and as you were going into the process of doing that, I was very curious what the form would look like, and I gone to a lot of plays before, a lot of performances. I'd never seen the way that you two took shape and form in the way that you did. And what it brought up for me, so I'm three Iwis. I'm Gan, Fanti, and Ebe. And on my Gan side are state symbols and antelope on top of an elephant. And the Whakatoki around it is, how did the antelope become on top of the elephant? It wasn't through force, it wasn't through coercion, it was through companionship and strategy. So it's a reminder to one another that you're to always work together to be able to get to your destination. And so it was almost as if your character was saying, like, I'll carry you, can you guide me? And the other was like, I'll guide you, can you carry me? And vice versa. So it didn't look as though one was, you were heavy. It didn't look as though you were lost. It just looked like you were one being in that moment. So what was the process of creating that moment? And also, what did that feel like for you?
That was instinct. Yeah. It was my character asking Ella to trust me, and Ella taking the lead of trusting and jumping on. And that image, I don't know if it looked the same every night because I was at the bottom, couldn't see. But yeah, it felt really strong for us too, and moving together.
Yeah. I think also that moment is, for my character, like the only point where my character has like enough strength to like look at the audience at all. And it's because I am because Stela's character is carrying me, which is really nice. And it's nice to have that moment in the show, because otherwise it would feel really like where it's like really internal. But I think it really is just what you said, like the thing of like trusting and like actually hearing what each other are asking for like a short moment.
I'm gonna have to like stop us there, and I want to keep going, but it's like we come into the end of the show. I'm just trying to say thank you guys so much for coming in, and like it's been amazing just to kind of like just bounce these ideas off you, and like again hearing everyone's different takes on things, and like I feel like it's just been such an enjoyable experience. And no, thank you guys so much for coming in.
And thanks for watching the show too.
You guys are all there, man.
All right, so this has been the Black House of Internext Radio 106.1 FM. Birthday, 5 years in the Black House. Peace.